Welcome to Unit 4. In this unit, we will be reviewing institutional theory. My name is Dara Snyder-Jans, and I will be your narrator. In this unit, I will use seminal research to define the basics of this theory, describe specific assumptions of the theory, discuss some of the criticisms and critiques of this theory, and then discuss applied research. The main research question institutional theory references is why organizations in a particular field tend to look and act the same. The core concept of institutional theory is that organizational structures and processes tend to acquire meaning and achieve stability in their own right, rather than on the basis of their effectiveness and efficiency in achieving desired ends, such as the mission of an organization. One key insight is that institutions are a critical component to the environment. Institutions are defined as regulative, normative, and cognitive structures and activities that provide stability and meaning for social behavior. This can include anything from laws, regulations, customs, culture, and ethics. These institutions exert a constraining influence over organizations called isomorphism, which forces organizations to resemble each other. There are three types of isomorphic pressure. The first one is coercive isomorphism, which refers to pressures from entities who have resources on which an organization depends. Mimetic isomorphism, which is the imitation or copying of other successful organizations when an organization is uncertain what to do. And finally, normative isomorphism, which refers to following professional standards and practices established by education and training methods, professional networks, and movement of employees along firms. Now, let's discuss some of the main assumptions of institutional theory. Institutional theory posits that institutionalized activities occur due to influences on three levels. First one is the individual level. Managers follow norms, habits, customs, and traditions both consciously and unconsciously. The second is organizational level, where shared political, social, cultural, and belief systems all support following traditions of institutionalized activities. And finally, the interorganizational level. For example, pressures from government, industry alliances, and expectations from society define what is socially acceptable and expected organizational behavior, which pressures organizations to look and act the same. An action becomes institutionalized when the reason for its existence is merely that everybody else is doing it. Institutional theorists argue that many organizational actions are so taken for granted that managers no longer question why a specific action was started or why a specific action should continue. Legitimacy is also an important assumption in institutional theory. New organizational forms emerge when they are viewed by society as legitimate. This is the extent to which an organization is socially accepted and approved by various internal and external stakeholders, and is consistent with widely held rules, norms, and beliefs. As with every theory, there will always be critiques and criticisms. Some of the criticisms and critiques for institutional theory are as follows. First, Phillips and Zuckerman, 2001, argued that the need for legitimacy may be dependent on the status of the individual organization. For example, middle status players who feel the need to act legitimately, high status players have the reputational capital to deviate from the norm, and low status players have to do whatever it takes to survive, whether legitimate or not. Second, institutional theory currently lacks appropriate measurement systems for such issues as legitimacy in institutions. Without measurement, there will be a lack of examining the efficacy of this theory. Third, institutional theory has tended to focus on effects of institutionalization rather than on the process through how organizations become institutionalized. This has resulted in a view of an organization merely as being a black box with nothing of value inside. Now, let's briefly discuss some of the seminal papers in institutional theory. The papers Oliver 1991 and Scott 1987 provide foundational concepts to institutional theory. These papers are typically cited in current institutional theory literature. Rogers and others 2007 is a more recent piece detailing how managers reconcile the conflict between externally imposed institutional demand and internal operational efficiency constraints. Congratulations, now you know more about institutional theory.